what's up, Pathway students? So today we are in week 3 of our series called Rooted, and we have so far talked about the reality that God never changes and God is with us. Those have been our 2 truths that we've looked at. Today what we're going to look at is that God can change the way that we view change. If you notice, we've changed locations, and here I am in my backyard, or I guess I'm on the deck and you can see my backyard, and it just kind of plays into the story that I'm going to tell you about something that I experienced when I was growing up. But before I begin that, I have a question for you that I would love for you to answer. You can comment on this video, you can leave us a message, you can direct message us, whatever. You answer this question or talk to whoever's around you while you watch this. And what was your least favorite daily task that you had to do when you were younger? Your least favorite daily task that you had to do when you were younger. It could be brushing your teeth or taking a shower. It could be washing your hair. It could be whatever it might be. What was your least favorite task that you had to do? All right, thanks for sharing, and I'm going to share with you just one of mine. It was not one that I had to do every single day, but it was a task that when I had to do it, I really did not want to do it. So when I was younger, I was growing up, and in our backyard, we had these huge walnut trees. They were very mature trees, which meant that they had full branches, big branches, and what fell from a walnut tree but walnuts, right? At the right season, at the right time, these walnuts fell. And they were like golf ball sized walnuts, maybe a little bit bigger. They come in that green outer shell with the walnut on the inside. And they would be all over our backyard. Wherever you stepped, there were walnuts just everywhere around on the ground. And so what we would have to do is, my task was that I had to go pick up all these walnuts. Because if my dad were to mow these walnuts, they'd kind of get picked up in the lawnmower and either get shot everywhere or shredded, or the walnut shells would be like hitting the blade, which wasn't good for the blade. And you can imagine you're walking along mowing and one gets shot into your leg or something, like that's gonna hurt. So my dad had me pick up all these walnuts. And I tell you, I did not like to do it. It was not something that I enjoyed doing. In fact, I tried to avoid it at all costs. I tried to get out of it. I tried not to do it. Those Home Depot orange buckets, those 5-gallon buckets, man, I would fill buckets and buckets and buckets and buckets of walnuts. And it wasn't just like a one-time, one and you're done type of thing. It's like raking the leaves. As time goes on, you've cleaned some up, but more come. And so you had to do it over and over again. And man, I hated that season when these walnuts fell on the ground. But also, I picked them up because I would run around in the backyard and I didn't want to step on them and trip and some of that. So that was a task that I did not enjoy doing. I was trying to avoid it. I knew that I needed to do it. I knew that I should do it. And yet I didn't always want to do it. I didn't always want to put in the effort to doing so. And that's kind of the same thing that we experience when it comes to change, is that sometimes change can really feel a lot like that thing that you need to do. That thing that you needed to do to make your life better, but you just didn't want to do. There are things in our lives that we need to change, and we know we need to change them. We know it's not good. Maybe in quarantine right now, it's your sleep schedule. It's not good, or your gaming schedule. You're doing it too much, but change is hard. Real change is very hard. We know what we should do, but we don't always do it. We know that there are some things that we really should be doing and things that we shouldn't be doing, but it's hard to change our behavior. We struggle to make it happen. Maybe you need to change the way that you eat because you're surviving solely on fast food and Mountain Dew, and that's not healthy. Or maybe changing the way that you treat your mom or your stepdad or whoever it might be, and that's not a honoring way to treat that parent. Maybe you need to make a change in your friend group. You need to go after a different friend group because the friend group that you have right now isn't good for you. You've kind of seen that in quarantine. You've seen who's really been there and who's really cared for you. Maybe you need to change that. Maybe you need to change your grades at school. You've not really been putting in the effort, or because your sleep schedule is so messed up and what you're doing schooling online is a challenge, and so maybe you need to change your grades at school and put more effort into that. Maybe you need to start taking some changes and making some changes in order to grow in your relationship with Jesus Christ. And you need to change some things in order to grow in that relationship. So we've talked about how this God who never changes really helps us stay rooted to the ground so that we'll be secure through the changes that life throws at us. We know that change comes. It's unavoidable. And so when change comes, what are we going to do? How are we going to stay rooted and grounded and firm when everything around us is chaotic and messy? So real change is really hard, and it can make us not want to do it. It can be actually easier to not change. Even though we don't like the behaviors that we're in, it's easier to not change than it is to change sometimes. But I think it all comes down to the perspective that we have on change. Last time we talked about how we can choose to change our perspective. And in that perspective change, we can start to, instead of viewing change as this chore, something that we have to do, we should do, but we don't really want to, we can instead change our perspective on change and look at it as an opportunity for joy, an opportunity to grow in our relationship with God and really grow as a human being created in His image and likeness. There's some wisdom books in the Bible, and one of the greatest ones that I love is this practical wisdom book, this book of James in the New Testament. James was the half-brother of Jesus, and he wrote to these 12 tribes of Israel. He actually begins his letter saying, to the 12 tribes in the dispersion. What it means is these 12 tribes have been dispersed all around the known world at the time. They're scattered everywhere. This change has happened in their lives. They've been driven out of their homeland. They've been driven out of their actual homes and their families, and all this kind of stuff has happened to them. They've been driven away. This change has been forced upon them. And James writes to them, hey, this trouble that you're experiencing, this change that you're experiencing, here's how you can handle it. He says this in verse 2 of James chapter 1. He says, dear brothers and sisters, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. Notice he says, when troubles of any kind come your way. Things come into our lives, change is sometimes forced on us that we don't want, that we didn't ask for, that we didn't desire, and yet it's there. No one asked for coronavirus, no one asked to be quarantined, no one asked for this isolation, no one asked to go to school online, no one asked to be stuck at home, and yet here we are in this change. So what do we do with this change? Well, so again, James says when. He says troubles will come, and it's not if they will happen, but when, and how do we handle them? And so instead of seeing the changes you need to make in your life as difficult or overwhelming, we can see them as opportunities for potential joy. We can, again, see them as chances for God to do something in you that will make your life better. Change is not always a bad thing. It's often not. It often helps us to grow and mature as human beings and as followers of Jesus. In verse 3, James chapter 1 says, for you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. Endurance means building your strength over time. Building your strength over time. James says again, for you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. When you're able to push past the pain and the discomfort and stress to make the change that you're needing to make, on the other side is growth and joy, a chance to grow. Making it easier for yourself to do it next time because you've done it once. You've started the process of this change. And so you build this endurance. You're building up strength over time, strength to change, strength to be able to deal with change, these deeper roots that are getting stronger and stronger to help you manage your life. You're stretching and strengthening the roots that keep you steady and secure through the ups and downs of life. And that's what we get to experience when we're able to cultivate this endurance. So James continues in verse 4. He says, so let it grow. Talking about your endurance, let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. Perfect and complete. Again, it's not about you, but it's about resting in Jesus and receiving the endurance that comes through faith in Him. And needing nothing, it means that God is supplying every need, that God is there to meet every single thing that we need, that God is there ministering to us, that we receive all of this from God. We experience it from Him because we're walking closely with Him. It's about this growth as a follower of Jesus. You're growing your roots and you're growing in faith. And so you can step into this change that helps you become rooted in God and who He wants you to be. Because God doesn't call us to stay where we are. He calls us to grow, right? A tree, as it digs those roots down deep, it's not so that the roots will just go down, but it's also so that the tree on the outside can grow and grow and grow. And the larger the tree is on the outside, the more growth that it has, the deeper the roots need to be. And so if we want to grow into, right, this is just an analogy, if we want to grow into these huge, massive, fruitful trees, we need deep roots. And we grow down these deep roots when we experience this change and our endurance grows. We count it all joy when we experience these troubles and we allow our endurance to shape and grow and develop and mature. So God changes the way that we see change, the way that we see all kinds of things. Instead of seeing change as negative, we can view it through the lens that James gave us through this scripture as an opportunity for joy and for endurance, for spiritual growth and for faith in our lives. So what I want you to try this week is to allow God to change the way that you view change, to look at your life. We all know the things that we need to change. And so when we see those things that we need to change in our life, we often don't want to do them. And so what I want you to do is to put a pause on the not wanting to do it part and ask God, what do I need to change in my life to grow in my relationship with you, to be more faithful to you? Think of the things that you need to change as opportunities rather than chores, and put in the effort that you need to make that change. And so to start, the first thing I want you to do is to pick just one area. If you try to change everything all at once, it's not going to happen. But if you pick one area of your life that you know needs to change, whatever it might be the amount of time that you spend in front of a screen. It might be your friend group. It might be a habit that you have. It might be the way that you treat someone in your life. Whatever it is, pick that one thing. One area of your life. Pick the one thing that you know, man, this is the thing that I need to change most. God, this is the thing that as I'm watching this, as I'm listening to this is what I am hearing from you that I need to change. So pick that one thing, the thing you've been struggling to change, and ask God to help you change the way you see it, to no longer see it as a chore or something bad, but something good, to lead you to change, to lead you to something better in your life as you're able to walk more intimately with God. So you're going to find out what that one thing is, right? You're going to pick just one area and then make one step. Again, you're not making these 50 steps to change it, but make one step this week to change that thing in your life. Take one step to change that thing in your life this week. One step. So you find that one area and take one step this week. And then you took one step this week, so next week take another step. And then another step. And maybe you're starting to take a step each day, not just each week. And sooner than later, you're going to find yourself changed, growing in endurance and thriving in your faith. So whatever it might be, that one step, it's not this huge life-altering step. Sometimes it is, but it's not always. We can set ourselves up for failure if we go too big too soon. So maybe it's just simply sending a message to a friend, or doing 30 more minutes of homework a night, or putting your phone away for a few hours, or turning on your app limits on your phone and some of those things, or going out of your way to do an extra chore for your parents, whatever it might be. Take one small step toward the change that you know that you need to make. God gives us the strength to do this. We rely on Him for that strength. We lean into Him during it, and He brings us out the other side, having grown in our endurance and in our faith and trust in Him. So God can change the way that we view change if we will allow Him to influence the way that we view change. And so my prayer for you this week is that you would allow God to change the way that you see change, that you would see in your life what you need to change and how you might be able to change it, using the power of God available to every follower of Jesus. Thanks for tuning in to Rooted Week 3. We're so glad that you have joined us. We've got some small group questions, discussion questions in the comment section below. Check those out, talk them out with a parent or a friend, and we hope that you're able to join us on Zoom as well. But if you're not, we're thankful that you're at least able to catch this YouTube video. So we'll see you next week as we begin a new series. Thank you.